Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mike. How's everybody doing? Give me a holler. Who's in the stream today? Give me a quick hello. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay? Can you hear me? I'm assuming you can hear me. Talk to me, folks. So we're doing a little earlier today. I figured we'd try an 11 o'clock stream, 11 o'clock Eastern. That's my time in the U.S. versus doing something a little later in the day, just in the off chance that some of my friends in Europe, Asia, Central Asia, etc., want to jump on board, try to make it as easy as possible for you guys. So welcome. I'm just going to keep talking until somebody tells me they can't hear me. The software tells me I'm streaming okay, tells me there's video, tells me there's audio, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're seeing or hearing. So I need to know. Talk to me. Max Kaufman, all good. Thank you. I figured if I just kept blathering about it, Max, someone would say, hey, Mike, we're all set. Welcome, Max. Glad to have you along. Thanks for joining. Appreciate seeing you. How's your Sunday going, Max? Is that all good, too? I'm going to take a gulp of water. Excuse me 1 second here. Mark Riddler. How you doing, Mark? Nice to see you. Oh, my bad. That's Mike Riddler, not Mark Riddler. I've got the, Max is doing great. I've got the computer pushed back. I'm curious. So here's the thing. I use a MacBook Pro. And when I started doing this streaming, you can imagine this little MacBook. It's a beast of a machine, but the processor wants to really go into overdrive. And so the fans kick on. And my concern always is just that the audio, this is the Shure SM7B is a great mic because if you're on it, if you're right on top of it, you get great audio, and if you pull away, the audio is not that great. But what I wonder is like how much ambient does it pick up? And I wonder how much this computer fan causes a problem. So typically what I do is I take the computer, I put it off to the side, I move my monitor right in front. I just thought I'm not reorganizing the office every time I do this, so I set the computer up right in front of me. And I'm just curious if you can hear that fan. I'm going to be quiet for half a second here, which is something that rarely happens. Let me be quiet for just a second. Let me know if you can hear the fan. Junaid, welcome. Junaid's saying he can't hear the computer. Well, I'm guessing, good afternoon, my friend. I'm guessing you can't hear it because of my nonstop blathering. I don't know if you guys notice. You see this here? I don't know if you can see it. I've got a little bit of color on my forehead. So yesterday, I got the motorcycle out for the first time. I don't know if any of you guys are motorcyclists. I got a motorcycle a bunch of years ago, and I love getting out on that thing. But this year, so what was yesterday? May 2nd, I want to say. And this is the first time this year that I've gotten the bike out. Usually I'm out, like I'm in upstate New York, so we're in a pretty cold region, but usually like late March, it'll get up into the 50s. The roads will be pretty clear. And maybe we had a little bit of rain to rinse the salt off the roads that we use to, melt the ice. And I'll get a ride in like early or late March. I'll layer up and everything, but if it's 50 degrees or higher Fahrenheit, I'll get out and ride. And I just could not get a ride in this year between rain and cold, snow, etc. So all the way through April as well, no rides. So yesterday I got the bike out, and what I did, I pulled the battery because I put the battery on a trickle charger, pull the battery, put it in, check the tires, make sure tire pressure is good, and then I wash the bike because it gets sitting in the garage, it gets dusty. And just being out washing the bike for an hour, working on it. And then I mowed a little bit of our lawn, and can't mow all of it because it's so wet right now. I try to hit the high spots. And I got a little sunburn, just a tiny bit. But that's a good sign. It means that life is coming back. All right, so what we got? We got some more people in here. We got Kate Hewen. Kate, nice to see you. Welcome. And Alexander Capital. Hello, Alexander. Great to see you back. Hope you're doing great. George is in the house. Hello, George. Greetings to our Austrian friends. Thanks for joining us. Junaid says he loves motorbikes, and I got vetoed by my dad from getting it. Well, you're old enough now. Now, let me tell you, you've got young kids. I know this for a fact. I did not get a motorcycle until my kids were old enough. And I mean, a couple were in college, and one was a late teenager that if dad got wiped out, they'd be okay. I felt when they were younger, I owed it to them not to have a motorcycle because they are dangerous. There's a risk. So yeah. So anyway, so I got one probably back in 2013 or 2014. And I'll tell you a little story about that. It was it came out of a trip that my wife and I did to Greece, to Athens. But I'll tell you about that in just a minute. Some more hellos. We've got Zoltan, Karpat. Zoltan, welcome. Forgive me. I'm a damn Yankee, so I'm not saying your name correctly, but I'm glad to have you here. And Zoltan's asking about Cybertruck. What would you like to know about Cybertruck, my friend? Windows down. It's my boy Mike. It is. It's your boy Mike. Hello, Windows down. Great to see you. Junaid also couldn't hear your computer fan mainly because my computer fan is kicking in too. There you go. That's fair enough. And then Windows Down says, you're such a you're such a damn smart guy. Glad to be here. Dude, well, first of all, that's a very kind compliment. And you just look at my head just getting bigger and bigger. I'm like, don't stop. Please don't stop. Thank you. That's a nice compliment. I'm glad you're here too. And I think the intelligence goes up with the group, meaning not that I get smarter, but I think that us together having great conversations is what really creates an intelligent atmosphere. So thank you. Anyway, Junaid, let's see. Junaid says, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks. I'll probably get one in 15 to 20 years then. There you go. See, that's the thing. When they're little, they got to have their dad, because I'm the breadwinner. We homeschooled, so mom was home with the kids. I was the main breadwinner. I owned a business. I own one now, but I had an agency at the time with a bunch of employees, and I just felt like if I take a hard one, if I'm incapacitated or don't make it, then I've screwed everybody. Now, not so much. They'll miss me. They'll be sad. Boy, I miss Dad, but they're all going to eat and do fine in life. Let's see. George says, all good on the sound, but I guess if you are asked if you can hear something, you start thinking about. That's it. So hopefully you don't hear it, and it's fine. I'm really, I love good audio, and I used to do lots of podcasting. I've got a podcast now that's kind of on hold. It's called The Currency. I love doing it, but I was doing all these interviews, and I really wasn't happy with where it was going. I mean, I love the people I was meeting. I was interviewing entrepreneurs, but I want to get deeper into ideas, and I've kind of put it on hold, just to, more of a pause than a hold as I figure it out. I might just do 15, 20, 30-minute little blurbs my own, and then every once in a while do an interview on it. So that'll start up again. But anyway, I'm really into audio. I'm not good at audio, but I love good audio, and that's why I'm always concerned about it. Zoltan gives me 2 thumbs up. Thank you, my friend. And no specific questions. I enjoy listening to professionals and make fun of them from time to time. Well, you can make fun of me, Zoltan. That's okay. I don't mind the odd trolling. It's kind of fun. Sometimes I overreact. I get into it because I love a good argument, and so then I'll start kind of fighting back and forth to prove my point. You'll see that sometimes in the comments of my videos. I'll get into a back and forth with somebody trying to prove my point, and then I realize, and people have told me, like, Mike, why are you bothering? Why are you wasting your breath? It's not worth it. But I realize, like, this person's not here to engage. They're not here to learn anything. They're not here to have their mind change. They just want to talk smack, as we all do, about their position. So, yeah. Windows down is not wrong, says Junaid. Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about my motorcycle story. So as I told you, I didn't ride. And my wife and I want to say back in 2012, 2013, went to Athens, Greece. As I mentioned, we live in upstate New York. My wife is South African. We've lived in South Africa. We've lived in different parts of the U.S., typically the Northeast, like Ohio. I've lived in New Jersey, New York. I grew up here in New York, where I am now. Anyway, we were in Athens, and we travel a fair amount, but whenever we travel, it's always back to Africa to see her family. And we had this opportunity to go for a business conference to Athens. So what we did is we were at the conference for four days, and so we booked a couple extra days in Athens, and then we booked a second week on this island called Spetses. And this was all kind of a last-minute thing. We knew we were going to stay a long time. Some of our accommodation in Athens fell through. We're at a restaurant, and this guy named Elkis, he had just opened a restaurant. We were one of the first guests to check out his new restaurant in Athens. He suggested, all the locals go to this island called Spetses. And we thought, okay, we'll check it out. And we got over to Spetses. It was like a 3-hour ride on one of these hydrofoils. It was like a 1950s, 1960s Russian hydrofoil that we took over to this island. And really, no one had a car. There were just 2 or 3 cars in the whole island. The way that you got around on the island was scooter or horseback. And so I rented a scooter, and the two of us got on the scooter. It was a little 50cc thing. And, I was in my late 40s at the time. I had my wife on the back, no helmets. It's May. It's like summertime there to me. Like you smell all the oregano and the pine from the wild hills. You see olive trees in the ocean as you're bombing around. And I just laughed and laughed and laughed. Like I had a full week of just ear to ear grin. And I felt like a teenager with his girlfriend riding around on a motorcycle. And I just said to my wife, when we get back to New York, I'm buying a motorcycle. And she's like, you're not buying a motorcycle. And I looked at her, I'm like, I am buying a motorcycle. And so we got back, and I took a class, learned how to ride, and I've had a bike ever since. I bought a Triumph. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that brand, but a Triumph Bonneville, kind of a classic. I thought as a balding, fat, white guy, middle-aged, if I go with a Harley, I'll be more of a cliche than I already am, a walking, living cliche. And if you ride Harleys, no offense, I love Harleys, cool bike, but I wanted a brand that had a little bit of heritage. As you know, I'm into branding. I wanted something that had some heritage, some style, some panache, but wasn't, hey, look at me. And the Triumph, the Bonneville is just a great bike, and the Triumph brand is a great brand. So that's my motorcycle story. So I've been riding for about a good 6+ years, I want to say. And yesterday was my first day getting out. In fact, we're going to get up to 70 degrees today. So after this live stream, I'm going to jump back out today and get another hour or two in, maybe ride up to the lake, maybe get myself an ice cream cone or something, like a big tough biker, have an ice cream cone, and just take in some scenery before I have to get back at it Monday morning. All right, let's look at some of the comments here. Let's see. I'm just skimming here. So George says, how are things in the U.S. on the lockdown? Man, George, what a question. How are things here in the U.S.? I'd love to know how things are going for you guys as well. If you see me moving around, I'm just grabbing things. I'm just fidgeting as we talk. That's a bad habit probably. But so how are things? It's interesting. Right now, the U.S. is in this weird phase where about a week or two ago, the accepted wisdom was we had peaked. We hit our peak, and now it was time to start talking about how do we move out of this lockdown. And if you know anything about the U.S., we have our federal government, but really it's a coalition of states under this concept of federalism. Each state is really an authority to itself, and then it's part of this federalized group. And so ultimately it's up to each state to decide. The governor of each state really has to decide what the state's going to do. And then the federal government is responsible for things like military and social services and so on, the bigger kind of things. And then each state is responsible for managing and running its state. And so New York State is very, very bureaucratic. New York State is very progressive, very liberal. A lot of that's carried by New York City, the big, 8+ million city of New York. And you've got the other centers, the urban centers in New York, like Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany. I live in Rochester. And then your countryside is typically more conservative. But essentially, the long and short of it is each state gets to decide how it's going to do things. And what we're seeing right now are the more conservative states or the more libertarian states saying, yeah, we're going to get back to it. They're not just throwing the switch and saying, let's just open everything, but they're phasing back in. They're starting to open businesses. They're giving people the freedom to visit their family members, to go visit, county parks and local parks, that type of thing, state forests, et cetera. They're opening their beaches. Now, the more progressive and left-leaning states are just staying clamped down. They're just refusing to even put a plan on the table. And so I'm sitting here in New York, and my county, Monroe County, which my city is in, has had only 1,500 cases. 700 of those have been recovered, and 111 or 120 deaths. I mean, hardly any. I mean, it's a lot of deaths, but 100, let's say 100 people have died from coronavirus in my county. Yet the governor refuses to look county by county. He's just saying the whole state's going to be on lockdown until further notice. He's saying, I don't have enough information. We don't know enough about this virus. We're just going to have to stay in lockdown until I let you know otherwise. I think that's really problematic, and here's why. You've stripped people of their constitutional rights. You've demanded that we remain in our homes, that we don't interact with people, that we don't go shopping unless we absolutely have to. Now we have to wear face masks everywhere we go. You're stripping us of our liberty. Okay, I get it, it's emergency, but what you're not doing is saying, here's the pathway out. They should be very quick to give back what they take away. But we all know that's not how governments work. So that's the challenge right now. We've got a real mix, George. It's not just it's not one broad stroke with the U.S. My suspicion is that a lot of these left-leaning liberal governors and states are incentivized on the back end to drag their feet as long as they can. If they can slow down the economy as long as they can, that really makes it hard for Donald Trump to win election again. And my guess is there's some discussion on the back end. It's just me guessing that, hey, if you help us defeat Donald Trump, when we take back the presidency, there'll be lots of federal money that pours into your state to help you. That's my guess. It's a gamble. It's a gamble because if Donald Trump wins, there's not going to be any federal money, flowing in. So I don't know what's going on, quite frankly. It's a little frustrating to be on the receiving end of this. My heart really goes out. If some of you saw on Twitter, I posted a photo, a couple slices of pizza on my motorcycle seat. And the reason I did that was there's a local guy, he's a friend of mine, Jim Steffieri. He runs the Pizza Stop. He's from Brooklyn. He moved here to Rochester, which is about 6 hours away. And he's got this Brooklyn-style pizza place. He's famous. He's like a famous guy in our town. And he's a good friend of mine. And he just made he's like, look, I've got to reopen. I can't stay closed. I'm going to open my dining area for people to come and buy and eat pizza. And he started getting death threats. People were screaming at him. The town that he's got 2 locations. One of the towns said, we'll pull your license to operate a business in our town forever if you do this. Like he really was abused. And so I went out there yesterday on the motorcycle, bought a couple slices, talked some smack with the employees, because you can do takeaway there, and then posted it to Twitter saying, hey, I'm here to support my buddy Jim. They're good people, and they're just trying to keep their employees fed. They're just trying to exercise their ability to stay in business. All right. That's enough of that. But that's right now it's a mixed bag in America, and we're going to get out of this, but it's not clear to me how. And I think these states with liberal governors, and they don't have to be left wing, but just liberal Democrat governors, they're really fighting this idea of opening. And you can open responsibly. You can do it in steps. They just don't want to have anything to do with that. And I can't help but be a little cynical and skeptical. I'm sorry. If you're not skeptical these days, look, I'm skeptical of Trump too. I'm just skeptical. But you've got to let people work. You've got to let people have purpose and meaning in their life. So there's that. Windows down. Thanks for waiting, Windows. I answered George's question. What is your personal favorite brand and why? Oh, gosh. What is my personal favorite brand? That's a tough question. That's a really tough question. I have a handful of brands that I really love. What is my personal favorite brand? Now, see, this is the challenge for me is because I work in branding so much. There's the old saying that I get to see how the sausage is made. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, but essentially, like if you see how sausage is made, sausage becomes less appetizing. You realize that it's pig guts and the casings, and then all the body parts that get ground up. Somehow it tastes great. I mean, sausage on an open fire, a grill, some Vorse. Oh my goodness, give me a break. That's the best. But if you see how sausage is made, not so appetizing. And so I maybe with branding, it's tough because I know too much to take a brand on face value. There are a lot of brands that I respect that really just, I think are well done, well positioned. But as far as are there brands that I embrace that I kind of, love for myself? I mean, Apple, but Apple's getting old in the sense that everybody's always used Apple as an example. But I've loved Apple since I was, a teenager. I've just always respected their branding. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to pass on that just because it would be too hard. I'm gonna think about it, and hopefully I can come back to you with an answer that's reasonable. George says, haha, the last and only time in my life drove a scooter was on a Greek island too. Great minds have great experiences here. Junaid's dreamt of Triumph bikes. Yeah, they're awesome. And they're not that bad. They're affordable. Zoltan wants to know how many broken bones. Now, I have had broken bones, but none of them from the motorcycle. I broke this wrist as a young guy playing basketball. I got scaphoid shattered. I've broken fingers. I've broken toes. And I've cracked some ribs. I never got them x-rayed, so I don't know if they were truly broken, but it took more than a month to be able to cough without wanting to pass out from the pain. I think they were kind of broken. They were cracked. I was playing soccer as a 40-year-old. The ground was rock hard. and I'm not that coordinated. I grew up playing baseball and basketball. Did not grow up playing soccer, but I love soccer. I actually stepped on the ball as opposed to, I was trying to do something, but I stepped on it and I went down hard. Oh, that hurts so bad. It hurts when you fall when you're older. Kevin Casey. Oh, wait, first of all, I have Ivan. Ivan, hey, Mike, 40th quarantine day here in Peru. Yeah, Ivan, welcome. And hang in there, man. It's going to be a long haul, my friend. Alexander Capital says last time he rode a bike was in 2016. Alexander, that is way too long. Way too long. Did you enjoy riding the bike? And then Kevin Casey. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you along. Zoltan says to Ivan, we can go outside with mass starting on the 15th of May, but no public gathering, pubs, or clubs. Zoltan, where are you? Where are you based, Zoltan? I'd love to know that. Oh, Romania. He answers right away. Romania. Okay. Danny Vega, welcome back, Danny. Danny says, and Danny spammed us last time with this stuff. He's got his name for freedom. We are Americans and we demand our freedom. We do. I think everyone, not just Americans, I think everyone should have their liberty. I don't think that liberty should be taken away. Here's the one thing about all this stuff. It's you go, oh, but the virus, that people are dying. Even if you were worried about people dying, first of all, if you're high risk, you should have common sense. You should keep your rear end in your home. It's not like people are going to start banging on your door, infected, demanding to come into your house. Your home is already yours. Stay in your house if you're at risk. And then the other thing is, let's ask people to use some common sense. Like, hey, if you think you might be sick, if you have a cough, if you have a fever, don't go to work. Don't do this, don't do that. I don't understand where the government, it's either on or off. There's no in between. It's black or white. We're either going to give you liberty or we're just going to take it all away. It's like, why not let people use their own common sense sometimes? Just say, hey, guys, use your head. Do these things. Obey these courtesy rules. You know, let stores say, hey, stand apart, social distance. I get it all, but to dictate it by law, to start arresting people, or is this nuts? All right, Janice, welcome, Janice. Do you think there will be an influx of small businesses when the lockdown lifts? I do. You know, I absolutely do. I think there's going to be a lot of small businesses that don't make it. But here's what I also think. There's going to be a pent-up demand. I think there's going to be a lot of people that lost their jobs and are going to go into business. I think a lot of these business owners that lose their businesses because of this issue, this situation, are going to jump back in with new businesses. So yes, I think there's going to be a huge influx of small businesses because of this. And I think that could be a good thing. It could be this kind of creative destruction. I would rather we don't force new businesses by destroying the economy we have. But yes, I totally think there's going to be an influx of new businesses. In fact, I did a video the other day, you can check it out on the channel, about the big opportunity for everybody. And that is, this is going to be a great time to buy a business. There are a lot of these people out there, baby boomers, et cetera, that are thinking of they've been wanting for years to get out of their business, to sell it. They don't have anybody to sell it to. There's a ton of these people. There's like $21 trillion of wealth tied up in small businesses around the globe. This isn't just America. And these baby boomers are getting old. They want to transition out. They want to capitalize on these businesses, and they don't want to hang in there and rebuild. So I think this is an opportunity for people, even if you don't have money, to get in there and say, I'll take over this business, I'll run it, I'll grow it, I'll pay you out of the profits. You can get out, I can run it, and we both win, and you can make some money in the process. So I think there's going to be a big entrepreneurship explosion coming out of this, but I think it's going to be a challenge for a while. This is not going to be we throw the switch back on and everything's back to normal. It's going to take time to rebuild. So a little chat back and forth. Danny Vega, the pathway out is what I just posted above. NWA Saba, welcome, my friend. Welcome, welcome. I hope you're doing great. Glad to see you on the chat. Hope business is great. Alexander Capital says, Mike, could you tell me which type of accountants and attorneys that are most likely to have baby boomer business owners as their clients? Yes. What you want to do, what I would typically do, I would not go to the big firms. You can go to big firms. Big firms are going to have lots of layers, and the partners at big firms are going to have your super wealthy people, people that own publicly owned companies, people that have investment firms, people that are old money. They're not going to be able to help you. And then underneath them are going to be all these layers of peons. It's not fair, but like people trying to make partner. That's a different business model. You want to find small shops, 1, 2, 5 accountants, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attorneys, typically 1 or 2. And what they are is they're corporate attorneys. So it's general CPA firms. This is in the U.S. now. It's general CPA firms. that specialize in high net worth people, specialize in corporate law, specialize in taxes, anything that is necessary for running a business. And most cities have lots of these people, and they're smaller firms. It might be an accountant with a staff of 4 or 5 people underneath him or her. It might be 2 or 3 partners, but it's usually local. It's usually privately owned, and it's usually a 1 or 2 with a handful of staff members. And these guys, these guys and gals, they're members of country clubs. They're tied into the business community locally. They're doing things like taxes. They're doing things like real estate. They're doing things like, maybe a little bit of personal law. But these are not trial attorneys. These guys aren't prosecuting cases. They're putting together real estate deals. You're trying to buy a commercial property. They're putting together corporate transactions. They're helping you deal with tax burdens and things like that. Those are the kinds of folks that you want to be looking for. And each city usually has a ton of these folks. And you just do a little search on LinkedIn, you should be able to find some of these folks there. NWA Saba says, no doubt Corona is part of a bigger game. We could go on and on. This will become like, it'll go from the Tesla to the Corona channel to the conspiracy channel. Zoltan says he lives in Dracula land. That's great. 80s 576, welcome to the live stream. Which brand of cars would you recommend for buying a used car under 10K mileage? Now, see, AD 576, I don't know that I'm a good person for that. You need to talk to my son Zach and check out their channel. Now, the reason I bring up Zach and his wife Faith and their channel, the Bad Timing Club, is they do car restorations and modifications and whatnot. But AD is a friend of theirs. He knows them. He's been to their house. I would ask them. I've been driving BMWs for a long time. And if I really spend some money on a car, it's going to be a Porsche 911. I mean, that's just a beautiful, beautiful vehicle to me. But boy, that's like buying a house. They're expensive. Right now, I drive a 5 Series, a BMW 5 Series, a 535 diesel, twin turbo. That's a great, and I do a lot of long distance driving, 5-6 hour trips. It's a great road touring vehicle. But you know what? I wouldn't necessarily recommend some of the German cars, AD. I think they're really expensive to maintain. I would go with a really solid vanilla Japanese car. I go with Toyota, Honda, some of those. Some of the parts are cheap, et cetera, but I think even Subarus do pretty good. But I talked to Zach about that, AD. Welcome to the stream, by the way. Windows down, haha, totally get the sausage analogy. I work in fashion and can't stand spending money on clothes now. So there you go. So Windows down, speaking of fashion, I've mentioned before, you wouldn't know looking at me, I love good clothing. And like my suits, I'll get my suits custom tailored. I'll get my shirts custom tailored. So I can appreciate that. So if you were to say, what brand of suits do you like to wear? Well, I don't. I have them custom tailored. So how elitist is that? How bourgeoisie? Free market, custom tailored suits? Come on, Mike. Killing me over here. You gotta fight the power, bro. Yeah, let me just keep scrolling here. Sorry, guys. I am a little slow. I've got the screen farther away now. Pauline Weinberger, welcome to the stream, my friend. She says any car would be fine under 10K. That's a great point. If you're 10,000 miles or kilometers, I'm guessing. Pauline, for a car that will go more than 150K, buy a Toyota. See, that's where I was going with this. I think the Japanese cars, the kind of the lower end mid-market Japanese cars, you can't go wrong. They're not sexy. They're not exciting. They don't have style and flash and all that, but on the other hand, these things they're just machines. They just keep going. They're well designed. They're easy to maintain. You can find anybody can work on them. I had a Nissan Sentra. I mean, we practically drove the wheels off that thing. I had that before I got married, and we had it. We got to the point where we're having a third child. It was time to get rid of it just because it was like my college car. But that thing just kept going. I had a Nissan Altima, bought that used, put tons of miles on that bad boy. Easy to maintain, didn't cost lots. So you could do a lot worse than a Japanese car. Yvonne, they're just back and forth. Proed Jansen, hey, our pro golfer buddy, Proed, and I think you're living in Italy, right? Sorry, too late. You're not too late. You're talking about Sweden. That's right. Let people kind of use common sense. You're going to take a hit. People are going to die. I mean, if you let people make decisions, then they're going to make decisions that end up costing them their own life, their own business, their own freedom, et cetera. But why strip it from them? Why not let people make responsible decisions? Now, to be fair to governments, this is a phrase you're not going to hear from me very often. To be fair to governments, we kind of had this mindset in Western society, at least, that everybody owes us something. So if I give you the freedom to do what you want, you can't turn around and then demand that we all fix the problems that you create for yourself. But we kind of had this attitude now that nobody's responsible for anything. Like if you sit and smoke cigarettes for 30 years, then you have lung cancer, then you're going to demand that that there should be public health care because it's too expensive to get surgery for your lung cancer. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways. You take responsibility for yourself, and I think the world's a much better place. Let me just keep going through some of these. Junaid says, we actually had an awesome barbecue outdoors yesterday. They had my brother-in-law over with the kids playing in the backyard. They've been quarantined like us for the past 3 months. Good for you, man. We've had some family members over for dinner on Friday night. I just said, you know what? I was willing to play ball. It was a real emergency. The data's out now. Yeah, this is a bad thing, but it's not half as bad as they've been telling us. So we had the kids over, did some steaks on the grill, had a couple IPAs and a nice time together. All right, Ara, welcome. Welcome to the stream, Ara. So glad to have you here. Listening here, you're in Otero County, which I believe is New Mexico. Since the start, 3 cases, no deaths. Maybe you know Spirit. That's Ara's dog that accompanied him across country on a motorcycle. Beautiful stories on his website. And I camped full-time 14 years, 5,000 plus days on a BMW GS and Ural sidecar, bad spine, no more. I've never met him. We've chatted a little bit via Messenger, et cetera. Seems like a lovely, lovely gentleman and has had a very colorful, interesting life. So, yeah. Hey, Daniel, welcome to the stream. Hello, Mike. Do you have any thoughts on Elon Musk's recent tweets? I absolutely do. Let's take a few minutes to talk Elon Musk. And I'm going to talk just 1 second. Before I do that, I just want to say hi to a couple other people. I'll get back to you. Proed Jansen said hi to you. Welcome. Akbar, welcome, my friend. Bhavesh, I'm so glad to see you. I want to know how that phone call went. So let's see, and then that's it. So let me get back to this question. Let's talk about Elon Musk for a minute. I almost made a video about this, but maybe this is better for the live stream. So as you guys know, and I didn't realize this. I didn't know that Elon Musk was with Grimes, the musical artist, and that she's pregnant with his kid. I found out the other day that Grimes is pregnant, and she's a Fruit Loop. I love some of her music, but she's just weird, and I think that's her shtick, right? She's weird. Okay, I'm an old white guy. She's a young female artist, and she's into the whole weird, trippy, witch hop, whatever. But I like some of her music. I discovered her a few years ago. Thank you, Spotify. So I find out the other day she's pregnant. I'm like, oh, did you know Grimes is pregnant? My kids are like, oh yeah, we knew that. What I didn't know is that she's with Elon Musk. Okay, that's a side comment. So here's the thing. Elon, a couple days ago, started saying stuff about you got to reopen the country. He's going to just get rid of all his earthly possessions. It's just these kind of crazy tweets. And he got attacked for it. And he's pushing, saying, look, you've got to get the economy back going. You've got to stop treating us like it's a dictatorship. These are my words, not his. You can look at it's all over the place. And then the likely news outlets like Vox and Vice and all these BS, fake, and they really are fake news. All these think pieces come out. Oh, we're going to deconstruct Elon Musk. And it just struck me. I started looking like the BBC, Bloomberg, everybody's on Elon's case about this. How dare he? How dare he encourage people to want to work? How dare he put us all at risk for his filthy lucre? Elon's in his magic castle, living his wonderful life, detached from reality. Now I don't have a problem criticizing Elon. I'm not an Elon fanboy, regardless of what people say in the comments of the Cybertruck video. But I have to respect the fact this is a guy that has generated tons of wealth, not just for himself, but for many. He's created tens and tens of thousands of jobs easily, just directly, and then the effect that, just think about the revolutionary power of PayPal, an Elon Musk project. PayPal has liberated so many people way back in the day to be able to work from home and get paid. You look at things like Etsy. Etsy wouldn't exist without PayPal. Now, I know we have things like Stripe and Square and so on these days, but back in the day, there was nothing like that. Consumers didn't have access to ways to transfer money back and forth, and Elon figured that out. Elon has taken Tesla to a place that nobody else could take it. You've got SpaceX and some of the boring companies, some of these other things. And Elon's kind of out there. That's his job. His job is to be out there, to be bombastic, and to kind of rattle the cage a little bit and get us to think differently about the world we live in and ask the questions, why not? And will all of Elon's projects come to fruit? Will they come to be successful? Absolutely not. What forward-looking kind of prophetic visionary is right 100% of the time? None of them. But Elon plays an important role in our society. Here's what I think. I think the reason, because I was pondering this, why did everybody in the media attack him? And it's not just big oil. It's not the big three car makers that have the media in their pocket. Here's the thing. There is a narrative. Narratives are powerful. I mean, I deal in narratives all the time in branding and marketing, and I've got some content on brand story that I share in public speeches that I give, talks. Brand story, I've taught it to executives and even college students. Brand story and the whole concept of story and narrative are so powerful from a physiological, biological, neurological perspective. Story is powerful. And there are main stories. There's some narratives right now that one of the popular narratives that we're hearing, you watch it, it's just all across the news. It's just fill in the blank, will never be the same again. That's one of the narratives that after this virus, nothing is going to be the same again. Now, you can say, yeah, but Mike, that's true. Is it necessarily true that nothing's going to be the same again? Now, I'm not saying it should be the same. But what happens is you get these narratives that start getting pushed out there and we embrace them. There's a story that because of this virus, we're never going to be able to return back to normal life. May or may not be true, but it's an accepted narrative. And I think the thing that Elon runs up against is he's willing to destroy the accepted narratives. That's what he was doing with the Cybertruck. That's what he's done with Tesla. That's what he's doing with SpaceX, with the Boring Company, with his tweets. Look, the guy smokes pot. He's the CEO of a publicly traded company. He's an inventor, a multi-millionaire, maybe a billionaire. I don't know what he's worth. The guy just defies all narratives. He is not embracing and willing to be submitted to a narrative. And so if everybody, you look at the advertising right now from all the tech startups, all the high-tech companies, all the big industries, all the big brands, we're in it together. We understand your pain. We have to do these things to be safe. Please stay in your home. Let's be a big family. And then please feel good about us because we all love each other and buy our stuff. That is the narrative. The narrative coming out of the news media is, oh my God, this is going to kill us. It's an existential threat. Trump's going to kill us all in the process. We've all got to stay safe. Let's get a herd mentality. Let's all work together like sheep and just, we're scared. That's the narrative. And Elon Musk is willing to transgress the narrative. He's willing to break it and say, this is bullshit. I don't agree with this. Now, I don't necessarily have to agree with Elon to respect the fact that he's willing to go against the narrative. And I think the reason that Elon Musk gets so much grief from the media and from individuals, why he is like a lightning rod for the same reason that Trump is because he's willing to attack, destroy, impinge, and poo-poo the narrative. He's not willing to say, I'll play ball. I'll pick up the narrative and be a good soldier. He's willing to go against the narrative. And a lot of times he's going to be wrong. A lot of times he's going to say stupid things. A lot of times he's going to embarrass himself. But that's what you do when you're willing to go against the narrative. So that's my opinion, Daniel, on the whole Elon Musk thing. I respect him. Don't necessarily, he's a little brand-wise. If I were on his board of directors, I'd be concerned because I'm like, Elon, you're causing trouble for us. But on the other hand, he's willing to put himself out there, and I got to respect that. That's how you get things like the Cybertruck. That's how you put people, that's how you commercialize space travel. You're willing to put yourself out there. And this applies to all of us. You've got to be willing to put yourself out there. You don't have to be willing to make a fool of yourself. You don't have to be willing to say rude and bombastic things. Each of us has to put ourselves out there in ways that are unique to us. You have to be willing to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to be willing to put yourself out into the arena and be willing to be observed, to be willing to be public in the thing that you're trying to do, whether you win or fail. I talked about this opportunity to get a business. If you're willing to put yourself out there, if you're willing to get in touch with accountants, if you're willing to get in touch with attorneys, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to succeed. You may fail miserably. You might go, that Mike's advice was terrible. But you've got to be willing to put yourself out there because only by getting into the arena where everyone can see you can you win or lose. There are no battles fought. I mean, we all have battles that are fought in darkness and desperation in our souls and our hearts and minds, in the private moments where all of us as human beings struggle with loneliness or depression, those kinds of things. That's real. But I'm saying if you want to produce something, you want to accomplish something, you've got to be willing to put yourself out there. And Elon Musk, in his own way, puts himself out there very publicly. And sometimes he looks like an idiot, and sometimes he looks like a genius. And all that really matters is, can you look like a genius once in a while? You don't have to be right all the time. You just got to nail it once in a while. All right, let's keep going here. Kids, I got to scroll. We got some action in the comments. I'm very grateful for that. I apologize that I'm not getting through everything quickly. Junaid says, one of my podcast interviews, I spoke to a CPA, and he talked in detail about the CARES Act and the PPP, but the government took a little longer getting that bill passed. Yeah, I mean, that's the government for you. You're down in D.C. area. You should know all about that, Junaid. Let's see. Zoltan, he's talking to Yvonne, so I won't. So, Pro Ed Jansen, I saw the mortality numbers of Germany, Q1 2019, Q1 2020. Last year, less people died. Not sure where you're going with that, but yeah, it's last year, less people died. I'm not disagreeing. I just don't follow with you, but you can elaborate if you like. Akbar, hi, Mike, from Jakarta, Indonesia, 10 p.m. Akbar, I wanted to do this a little earlier at my time to give people like yourself a chance to jump in. So glad you're here. Bhavesh, already saw you. Would love to hear how you're. Bhavesh, let me tell you guys, Bhavesh is killing it. He's been out there, talking about putting yourself out there. He has been out there promoting himself, trying to find ways that he can solve problems for others, and he's been picking up clients. He's got a little digital marketing agency blowing up right now because he's out there telling people, hey, I see you have a problem. I think I can help you with that. How can I help you? What challenges what value can I create for you? Not what do you have for me, but he's putting himself out there saying, I want to help you solve problems. And people are talking to him, and I think, wow, that's awesome. Kevin Casey wants to know how he can get a good deal business loan like $500,000 to $1 million. If you're in the U.S., Kevin, your best bet is to go to the Small Business Administration. Typically, those loans go through local banks. So you'll have banks in your area, regional banks, and even national banks in your area. You want to talk to a commercial loan person there. And then SBA, Small Business Administration, awards those loans through those banks. They don't give them directly. So you've got to develop a bit of a relationship with a local banker. And I talk to a few of them and see, what they're looking at right now, what opportunities are. You find a good commercial lender, commercial banker, they'll help you through the process. And if you have an accountant or an attorney, sometimes they'll tell you, oh, I know Susie over at such and such a bank. We're good friends. Whenever I've got a deal, I bring it to her. She's always great at helping me put something together. So I talk to an accountant. I talk to an attorney. Don't spend any money with them, but try to get a relationship going and ask them, who do they like to work with for Small Business Administration loans? They always have someone. Every accountant, every attorney has always got a guy. I got a guy, Mike. I'll take care of it. Let me tell you, this guy, this gal, they'll help us. And then that recommendation, because if your accountant makes a recommendation to the banker is going to be much more likely to take a look. Doesn't guarantee you get the money, but you've got to have these relationships in place, and it has to start somewhere. Let's see. Junaid's making fun of me. He's like, Tesla to Corona in 60 seconds. That's right. You didn't even hear the engine going. Pro Jansen, German professor, coroner in Hamburg, opened 150 plus corpses, all had COVID-19. None died of COVID-19. Thank you. That's one of the things that we're saying. It's probably not as lethal as we think. And secondly, it's probably much more widespread than we think. I was talking to someone who is an EMT. That's an emergency medical technician, volunteer fireman, emergency medical technician, not in my county, in a different county. But he said right now, every death is being listed as a COVID-19 death. Every death. He goes, there's no autopsy. The only autopsies being done right now is if somebody dies from some type of criminal activity, a shooting, they'll do an autopsy, that type of thing. But right now, if an EMT is on the scene, he said, Mike, if you drop dead of a heart attack right now, you're getting listed as a COVID-19 death. So go figure. I mean, I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's just like the institutions of government and medicine have been transformed into something of a lesser version, a less trustworthy version of their former selves. All right, you didn't come here for that. I don't know what you came here for, actually. Maybe you did come here for that. Okay, Alexander Capital says, Roger that, Mike, thank you for the info. You got it, buddy, and I wish you all the best. Get in touch. Let me know how it's going. You guys can always get in touch with me from my website. Just go to MikeGastin.com. By the way, if you do that, there's a form where you can hit me with email. There's also an email sign-up form, and I haven't been doing much with it, but I've got a newsletter that I like to put out. I'm going to start doing that again soon. I would highly encourage you guys, hit my website, go to MikeGastin.com, and look for the sign-up. It's in the footer, I believe, but you can sign up for the newsletter. Would love to get you guys on the list. And yeah, no, I'm not going to spam you. I won't sell your information to somebody else. I may at some point down the road go, hey, I've got a product, so I'll let you know. But that's not what I'm using it for. I'm not trying to sell anything really. I'm just trying to share information and use it that way. So I'd love to have you on the list. So jump over there if you got a minute and do that today. And many thanks. George loves his Model 3. Windows down, 2006 E320 diesel, yeah, for 7K. Bulletproof and up to 38 miles per gallon. There you go, buddy. That's a machine. Zoltan, Toyota self-charging hybrid nonsense. Yeah, there's some BS out there. Windows down. I mentioned once how nice your sweater was. I remember that too. I almost wore a sweater, but it's getting warm. And when I've got the lights on in my office and the doors closed, I start to get a little hot. And I remember thinking somebody said, hey, Mike's sweater game is on fleek or something. I don't remember what it was, but maybe that was you, Windows down. So thanks. I actually remember that comment. That's so funny. You wait till you see in the middle of summer when I'm in a tank top. I don't have any tattoos, so I won't look cool in a tank top, but I won't do that, by the way. Let's see. You said your t-shirt collar to sweater collar ratio was 100% spot on. That's right. I totally remember that. That's funny. I remember that now. Junaid had 93 Nissan Sentra, drove for over 120K miles. There you go. Those Japanese cars just keep going. NWA Saba brand national. Yeah, it's a great brand. Danny Vega, I'm a naturalist here in Florida. I don't like clothes either. So Danny Vega, you're a naturalist. I don't suggest you live stream, Danny. If you do, you gotta at least put a shirt on. We can't see what you're wearing underneath anyway, but you gotta at least wear a shirt, Danny. And I bet you in Florida there are days where you wish you didn't have to wear any clothes because it gets so hot down there. Both Pro Jansen and Bavesh retracted their messages. I'm disappointed. I want to know what you guys said, but that's okay. Danny Vega, my first Tesla Model S is a white 2015. My second cherry red 2018. I'm looking to get the Cybertruck next. That's awesome, buddy. Wow, you're Tesla all in. That's awesome. Pro Jansen, he was right tweeting to open up the economy, but Tesla stock is too high. Yeah, it is. You know, and it's interesting. Everybody's trying to nail him on, is he manipulating the stock? They just love to hate this guy. Africa Club guy, welcome back, man. Good to see you. He asked, hey, Mike, from Kenya, or Kenya, as we used to say when we lived in South Africa. Buddy, I used to live in Cape Town and Bloemfontein. I would love to go to Kenya. Oh, I would love to go to Tanzania. I'd love to go to Namibia. I love Southern Africa. Okay. Let's get to it's about 6:30 p.m. here. Glad I finally caught a live stream. Buddy, I did this for people just like you. I try to do it earlier. Usually I do them late in the afternoon my time. I want to do it earlier so that all my friends could jump on. Although I'm having trouble getting Australia, New Zealand. The time change is just so crazy. It's impossible to get those guys on here. Daniel wants to know what kind of meeting, why you mentioned it here. I missed that. So I think Bavesh maybe retracted his message. But anyway, Danny Vega, not sure how I feel about Elon Musk saying stock too low. Well, look, I get it. It is questionable. But yeah, and then Bavesh says, Mike knows. I do know, Bavesh. I know. I want to know how it goes. You got to hit me up. Send me a LinkedIn message or something. Let me know how that meeting went. George, according to Google, 38 billion net worth for Elon. That's not too shabby. Not too shabby. 38 billion. I figured he had to be a billionaire, but I just didn't want to misspeak, not knowing the number. Thank you, George. Danny Vega, I like how he did that. Yes, freedom versus fascism. Zoltan, Elon was close to death from malaria. He has experience. Yeah, he also was born in South Africa. Elon's originally from South Africa, and a lot of people don't know that. Kate Hewen, I don't live in the U.S., but I always felt Vox was pretty decent content. Why would you say that's fake news? Can you expand on that? Sure. So Vox, Vice, here's why I say that, and you're right. I mean, I'm painting with a very broad brush, so I'm gonna pull back a little bit. I don't necessarily think they're fake news, Vox. What I think is you get these pieces that are positioned as very thoughtful. So you read a Vox piece and you go, wow, this is really thoughtful. The tone and style is very thoughtful. It's very educated. They bring in both data points, pop culture references, et cetera. And what ends up happening is it comes off as this really authoritative piece, but if you start looking at Vox's content, it is so far slanted in one way. It's not journalism. It's really opinion. It's looking through a certain lens. There's a worldview. There's a perspective. There's a zeitgeist that informs the way that Vox reports. It informs the positions that Vox takes. It's not doing investigative journalism. It's trying to convince you of an opinion or a belief. And so I call that fake news. And you're right, that fake news term is getting tired. It's old. But for me, if you're looking to Vox for entertainment, for getting information in positions that you appreciate, great. But I just can't call Vox a serious journalistic organization because they're so agendized. They're really pushing a certain perspective and view of the world. They have certain assumptions that they don't come out and admit to that inform everything. And so a guy like Elon just never going to get a fair shake from Vox. Maybe a conservative lifestyle or conservative position is never going to be represented fairly. It's always going to be represented kind of as a straw man that they can then pick apart and show how erudite and how well-positioned they are. So that's my feeling on Vox. But in the comments, like, push back a little bit. I that's my feeling. But if you feel differently, let me know what you think. I'm a big boy. I can handle that. As I speak right now, the cat is outside the door crying to be let outside, and I'm guessing nobody else is here to let her out. She's just going to have to stay in until we're done here. Poor thing. All right, so let's see. Danny Vega, right? I got into PayPal when it first came online. Ara, poo-poo, bombastic, new words for me. Love your channel. Thanks. Bombastic's new? I mean, poo-poo, what can I say about that? But bombastic, that's a great word, too. It doesn't get used enough, I don't think. Bombastic. George, Vox is part of the mainstream media agenda. Wouldn't believe much they say. 8576. Have you watched the Joe Rogan podcast that featured Elon Musk? I've seen clips from it. Absolutely. He was smoking pot with Joe Rogan. How can you miss that one? And I'm not a pot smoker. I've never tried pot, but that was quite something to watch. Elon Musk, the famous Elon Musk, smoke a joint. He's nuts, that guy. Danny Vega, Wondrous Stories. Name one of my favorite albums by John Anderson of Yes. Yeah, John Anderson and Yes. I grew up with prog rock, so for me, Rush, Yes, Yellow, love prog rock, and good stuff. Okay, 87. You mean podcast? Yeah, that's right. I'm going to keep moving here. Kevin Casey, thank you. Let's see. Pro Jansen. WHO and Robert Koch Institute or Koch Institute didn't want hospitals to do autopsies. The COVID test made by German hospital was positive for COVID-19, but might even be positive for other COVIDs. George, Mike, you are much better in articulating the problem with Vox than I am in my comments. Well, thank you, George. That's why they pay me the big bucks here to do this live stream. I got to tell you, this live stream, and I'm not getting paid the big bucks, obviously. It's such a refreshing time for me. I look forward to this. I mean, you would think just looking into a camera and talking into a mic for an hour and a half is like a lot of work. And I am tired afterwards, but I love this back and forth. It's energizing for me. I come out of this like happy, relaxed. It's a nice time. So I'm grateful for all of you being here and for the interaction. It just means a lot to me. And I'm glad that that you enjoyed as well. Thank you. Let's see. Kate Hewen, basically, I assume all media has an agenda. Very good. I'm with you on that, Kate. No question. Except for me. Yours truly, always pure of heart. I will never try to agendize anything. I'm just here to give. I'm just here to help humanity. And I feel as a world dictator, I would be the best help to humanity. If I could just have the world under my grip for 10, maybe 20 years, everything would just be so nice. But yeah, no, Kate, in all seriousness, you're right. All media has an agenda. It's up to me to read all sides and come out on my own view. They do give more sources than most. Thanks to the reply, though. That's cool. And Kate, look, I'm not trying to damn them to hell. I'm not saying Vox is the worst, but they do kind of fit in this category. You know, similarly, here in the U.S., we've got some TVs that are actually comedy shows, like the Colbert Report or the Tonight Show or the Daily Report. Not the Tonight Show, the Daily Report. And, you know, they come off as news programs, but they're really comedy. But at the same time, people treat them as serious news. They're like, well, I'm getting good information. And that's true, but like it's not journalism. It's not journalism. It's commentary. Like if I'm going to sit and talk about Elon Musk, I'm not doing journalism. I'm just commentating. It's Mike Gastin's opinion, and hopefully it's entertaining. And I want to sway you to my way of thinking. I'm not trying to manipulate anybody, but I would love for people to agree with me. And I want to be challenged because I want to grow. And for me, I just think the lines have been blurred. It's okay, but the lines have been blurred. And I'm just curious who's doing real journalism, who's doing investigative reporting, who's trying to get the truth out there versus trying to get their side of the story, their narrative out there. And that's the thing. We'll go back to narratives. A lot of these organs like Vox, Vice, these different TV shows that I just referred to, they're trying to communicate a narrative. They're trying to communicate their way of making sense of the world versus saying, look, I respect you, Kate. I respect you, Mike. I just want to get the details out there and let you be the judge of what you think about these things. But to your point, they're not horrible. They're not bad. And I read them. I'll read a story by them from time to time. But I kind of go in a little skeptical, quite frankly, when I read anything from them. But that's just me. I think we should, to your point, all be skeptical, quite frankly. Giannis, do you have an opinion on UBI? Oh, Giannis. We talked about UBI last stream. I got some follow-up. I even got into it with my eldest son the other day. Not into it, but we talked about it. I do have an opinion on UBI. I think that it's a flawed concept. I think the heart behind UBI, this is going to get me in trouble every time. I think the desire behind UBI to help people overcome their financial wealth, systemic problems that keep them below the poverty line is laudable. I think it's good. I think the desire behind UBI is good. The problem I have with UBI is it doesn't make sense to me. And there's just some very simple economics that don't work. But somehow we just think, oh, it could work. And Yang Gang and all that stuff, I get it. Like I get the desire to make the world a better place. I just don't think that UBI does it. I think that UBI ignores certain fundamental aspects of human nature. I think it also ignores certain fundamental aspects of any economy, whether it's a socialist economy, communist economy, or a free market capitalist economy. I think it also doesn't respect private property. I think it doesn't. I think it works against human nature. And here's the other flaw I have with UBI. People are like, well, let's try it. Let's at least try it. But you got to think about what that really means. If we try UBI, think of any government program where the government takes on more responsibility for redistributing wealth, where they take in taxation wealth away from someone, whether it's a corporation or an individual, and then redistribute it out to the population. When have we ever tried that, said it's not working, and the government said, you know what, let's just stop. Let me stop taking your money. Let me stop giving the money out to everybody. That's just never going to happen. So my concern is, and you can say, well, that's a slippery slope fallacy. I don't know that the slippery slope is a fallacy, my friend. Once the government gets their hands in our pockets, they never get them out. And they might say that UBI isn't working, but they'll start saying, well, we need more money because it's not working because we don't have enough money. It's not working because we need to add more programs or more. I just see this thing as a foot in the door. You get your foot in the door with UBI, and then the next thing you know, you're 60 years under some system that's just unworkable. And that said, I believe there are opportunities to help people lift out. I believe in the creative power of each individual. I believe in the potential of each human being. And I want to see people break free of the bonds. And they really are bonds that you get born into of poverty. I'm totally for eradicating poverty as best we can. I just don't think UBI does it. And we can get into things like inflation, et cetera. But those are my quick kind of shoot from the hip thoughts. You can kind of infer some things from there. Ara says, I'm trying to find just the news. Al Jazeera, Reuters, RT News, your opinions. I don't have any. I think Kate is on it where you kind of have to read broadly, consume broadly, and then make your own decisions. I get concerned with people that just, consume news from one outlet or the other. The problem is, like you get an MSNBC, clearly that's very leftist progressive. You get a Fox News, that's very kind of establishment, right wing. They're all playing to their crowd. They all know who their crowd is, and they're just playing to that crowd. I think you have to read broadly, and it's not just, well, I read The Economist. Well, that can be kind of leftist depending on the editor. It used to be more conservative. Now it's much more leftist. When I say leftist, it's always been liberal as far as classical liberal, but socially it's becoming much more leftist. Okay, but people then go, well, it's The Economist. It's about money. It's got to be conservative. It's not. So you got to read broadly. I think you have to kind of know what ideological background are they coming from in order to understand and interpret what they're telling you. You kind of have to deconstruct each one a little bit and figure out from there. I don't do a ton of, I don't watch a lot of news for that reason. Africa Club Guy says, Bombastic was a big Shaggy song. Ha ha ha. Yeah. How about Africa Bombada? There's a name, kind of like Bombastic, Africa Bombada. Kate Hewen, all of them. Yep. Danny Vega, LOL, right. No photos allowed. That's a bummer. Yeah, you're telling me. George, Mike, you should go back to a Greek island, drive a scooter, and smoke pot at the beach afterwards. George, I've gotten this far in life without smoking pot. I've done the Greek islands, and I've done the scooter. I've done the beaches. I would go back to Greece in a heartbeat. Loved it. Loved the people were phenomenal. I just loved it. If I could, actually, I would move to Barcelona, Spain. That's like, I've said that before, one of my favorite cities. I think at this stage of life where I am, I'm probably just never going to smoke pot. I'm just not going to do it. I mean, I've gotten this far. It's like, why bother at this stage? I've made, so I don't feel like I need it. I'm pretty happy about life. So I don't feel like I have to have pot to feel good. So, the Wheeler View, welcome, the Wheeler View. Glad to have you along. We can feel your energy. Well, I hope it feels good, the Wheeler View. I'm glad to have you along. I hope it feels good. Ara says, Gastin for president. That's right. I was thinking dictator for life, but I could start with president. If I could just, again, slippery slope. If I can get my foot wedged in the door, if I can just get a presidency, could I just take over a small island? I don't have to have the whole world, but could I at least have like a small island that I run? I just think, that would be good for me. I don't know how you guys feel, but that would be good for me. Oh my gosh. The Wheeler View, how the world after COVID will be different from the before world. Does it change something for you? I mean, clearly it does. The Wheeler View, the thing that it's changing for me the most isn't my thoughts on work. It isn't on lifestyle. It isn't on like my business, et cetera, although those things factor in. It's changing my thoughts on government, politics, and personal liberty, and where those lines are. And I'm not ready to like pick up guns, get in the General Lee, if you guys remember the Dukes of Hazzard, and start charging around town, waving my fist for freedom. But it is making me consider some of the values that we as a society hold or take for granted or assume. Because what I'm seeing, I've had opinions. I tend to be more of a conceptual thinker. I tend to be more an inductive reasoner than a reductive reasoner. And, I've thought about the kind of principles and concepts behind different positions. I've done a fair amount of research and reading on political theory, et cetera. And so I've had opinions, but the COVID-19, the way that everyone's responding, the way the world is responding, different communities, different social groups, political groups, the way that people are behaving, even generations are responding differently, it's kind of putting fact to my theories. I'm getting to observe how we are behaving under times of difficult circumstances. And so it's just making me reconsider some of my assumptions and then making me wonder, what are my responsibilities, obligations about my own life? What do I have to do in order to continue to live life on my own terms? I think every human being wants to be able to live life on their own terms. They want to have security. They want to have the ability to live their life, et cetera. This doesn't matter what country you live in. This isn't about constitutions and rights. It's humans are happier when they have the ability to make decisions for their own life. And so I'm just thinking about some of the decisions I've made in the past, some of the decisions that I might need to make in the future about where I live and what I do. So that's just kind of come to the forefront for me. I think it'll be easier to look back, 5 years from now and answer that question, but that's just where my mind is at right now. So that's that. George, Mike, go third party. You will be the youngest on the ballot by far. And I will be the only non-boomer. Now, I know for some of you young kids, I look like a boomer, but I'm Gen X. I would be the only Gen X candidate on the podium. Oh, but Trump he'd rip me apart. He'd call me mean names and make me cry. Oh my gosh. Here's the thing. I would love to run for office, but you know what I hate? I hate political parties. I've had like local parties hey, you should get involved, and I look at the party politics. You have to kiss so much rear end just to get your own party to let you have the right to maybe run for office. Like there's just so much ass kissing. I'm sorry, guys, but there's so much just that nonsense that I don't think that I could put up with the political party. And that's why the dictator is so attractive to me. Let's just get rid of all the political party stuff. Let me just take control. It's easy. Okay, Bhavish, I'm goofing, obviously. I'm sharing my heart with you through mirth and frivolity, but obviously I don't have any plans to run for office or to overthrow any governments, not today at least. Bhavesh says, digital marketing is an execution problem, not a knowledge problem. Let me know your thoughts on this. I agree. And I think specifically to take that to a finer point, what I observe with my clients and some of the digital marketing firms that we work with, there are always lots of promises on the front end. Oh, we're going to do this. It's going to be measurable. We're going to do that. It's going to be measurable. It's going to be great. You're going to get all this traffic, et cetera. And then the way they execute, they make customized promises. Here's what we're promising you. But then they deliver templated execution, meaning there's no thought, there's no depth, it's not customized. They're just going to get you on that retainer. They're going to go through the motions. They're going to report some data points, and they're going to keep you on that gravy train as long as they can. And so it's not just execution that they're not good at executing. It's almost like they don't make the effort to execute beyond a templated, productized approach. And I just think that there's a huge opportunity if you can figure out the business model. If you can make enough money to give a customized execution, you could set yourself head and shoulders above the rest. And imagine getting great results. That would be the trifecta right there. Danny Vega, what's the best way to brand online? Oh gosh, Danny, that's a big question. I can't, what's the best way to brand online? I don't know. What's the best way to cook food? It's like when, and I'm not trying to dismiss. I'm not trying to give you attitude back. I'm just saying it's just such a wide open question. I don't know how I could answer that. Giannis, I would pay money to see you talk with Andrew Yang. And I need to spend some time. First of all, I don't know why you're saying that. Are you saying that because you'd love to see Yang destroy me? Because he's probably 20 times, 100 times smarter than me. I don't know Yang well enough. Like I haven't sat and watched lots of his content. He seems like a wonderful human being. Like I've been impressed by just him as a person. He seems like a good, nice guy, like not a politician. And I respect him for that. And clearly he's attracted a lot of young folks to him in a way that's impressive. So I think he's a substantive person. This is not a lightweight to be, the media portrayed him as this kind of lightweight kook, a joke. And I thought that was unfair. But again, it's the narrative. They've got a narrative to keep, and Yang didn't fit that narrative. But are you saying you'd love to have me talk with him because you'd like to see him eviscerate me and destroy me? Or are you saying you'd pay to see that because you think it'd be an interesting discussion between the two of us? I'll believe the latter, but it might be the former, it might be the real reason why. George says governments are doing kind of UBI for the big companies whenever things go south. Boy, isn't that the truth? The corporate welfare is disgusting. Bankruptcy in the U.S., bankruptcy law is there for a reason. It's not pleasant, it's not popular, but bankruptcy is there for when a business gets into real deep trouble. They can go through bankruptcy proceedings and try to navigate out of that so that they can rebuild the business down the road. And I think that businesses and even states in the U.S. should be allowed and should be encouraged to go bankrupt. If you're not running healthy, if you're not black on your balance sheet, if you're not positive making money, and you can't keep servicing all the debt that you've racked up, then you should go through bankruptcy. And usually going through bankruptcy doesn't just let you off the hook. You're forced to restructure. You've got to restructure. You have to pay back some of that debt, pennies on the dollar. And you have to restructure in a way that when you come out of it, you're healthy and strong. And that gets managed by a third party. I think bankruptcy is healthy because it forces organizations, institutions, companies, governments to get their act together. That's the idea of bankruptcy. And, people get all upset like, oh, bankruptcy is horrible. It's a good concept, and it's there for a reason. Froyd Jansen says, that's why I like you live streams. UBI will never work. When you will be president, make me responsible for sport. There you go. Minister of Sports. We'll have government forced sporting events. We'll go back to the Roman Colosseum days. Oh, that's great. Daniel, did you do any other drugs? No, I've never done any illegal drugs. Let me tell you exactly what I've done, okay? I have smoked cigarettes. I used to smoke cigarettes when I was a young guy, kind of like you go out drinking with your friends, you smoke, but I wasn't a smoker. I smoked some cigarettes like at the bar on a Friday night. I got into smoking cigars, and even last year I was smoking pipes a lot, tobacco pipes. I quit smoking in October of last year, cigars and pipes, and I'm thrilled. I'm glad not to smoke. But I've always been more of a casual kind of social smoker whenever I did smoke. So that's tobacco. The other thing that I enjoy is alcohol. I like great wine. I like scotch, gin. I like a good martini, like a great single malt scotch. I love nice wines from California, Spain, France, of course. Even New York. I live in a wine region here in the Finger Lakes. So I enjoy alcohol. But, for me, if I have 3 or 4 drinks in a week, that's a lot. Usually I will drink 1 or 2 at a time. So I'll sit down on a Friday night after work, maybe mix myself a Negroni and sit back and smile, or maybe have a scotch some evening after I've worked pretty hard. But other than that, I'm not big. So what other drugs? I think that's pretty much it. Tobacco and alcohol, both legal. Never done any illegal drugs. And thank God, because I don't know what I'd be like on drugs, quite frankly. I do get addicted to things. Things get in my head and I can't walk away from them. So I would not like to see myself on anything other than what I just explained to you there. Okay, now you know so much about me. Where am I? Pauline says, business live stream yet? Most successful, I think. Oh, busiest live stream yet? Yes, I think today's been pretty busy. The first one was pretty busy, but the comments are fantastic today, Pauline. And maybe this is a good time. Daniel, LSD or something else recreational? No, Daniel, no drugs. I keep trying to tell you guys, I'm not, that's just not me. Fast cars, cute girls when I was young, driving around, girlfriends, fast cars, played basketball, baseball, had a big mouth, get into fist fights a little bit when I was a teenager. That was about as wild as I got. I was not a great kid necessarily, but I wasn't just this wild man. I was, I don't know. I was entrepreneurial, and I like to take it up to a certain line, but I didn't like to go past that line. I don't like to lose control. That's really what it is. And illicit drugs, I should say, like LSD, mushrooms, they just scared me because I don't like the concept of losing control. That's why, I've never been fall down drunk. I've had a few too many drinks, get too loud, laughing too much. But I don't like losing control. That's a thing for me. And that's probably why I like free markets. That's why I like liberty. That's why I like working for myself. It's a control thing. Boy, I feel like this is like the psychiatry hour here together. All right, let me keep going here through these comments. Africa Club Guy, sort of feel like the, quote, world will never be the same thing after this narrative is snowballing to where social forces will make it inevitable, not the virus, just because the forces of consensus. Africa Club Guy, you get comment of the stream. That is exactly it. And that's why I bring up this concept of narratives. This is a narrative that's being put out there. And the more you put it out there, the more it just becomes accepted. It becomes gospel. We don't question. We're all just like, well, of course it's going to be different. And then what ends up happening is the narrative drives the change more than the actual event that the narrative is about drives the change. I think you're spot on. Thank you for articulating what was kind of unarticulated up here so clearly. Fantastic comment. I agree with you 100%. And that's not just now. That happens all the time. And this is why I get frustrated where people parrot the narratives. They watch all this news. I've got loved ones, they're all wound up. You try to say something to them, and it's offensive to them to say anything that doesn't line up with what they've been hearing and what they believe. And it's that narrative is so powerful, so powerful. We should get more into narratives sometime. Let's see here. Danny Vega, I think we can create our own UBI in a free enterprise way. I guess. Why not just help people find opportunities to generate their own wealth? How about giving people ways out of their poverty that empower them? Not so much put them in a position of needing a handout, but empower them to create wealth. And I don't know what that is. I'm not trying to say, well, they should just pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I understand if you're born into poverty, if you're born into a community, a society, a family that's struggling, it's all you know, and you can't think beyond that. And I get how powerful that can be in keeping you in bondage. And we should work hard to help lift these people up. So I don't want to do this, well, they're just lazy. That's not what I'm saying. There are, and let's face it, The other side of the coin is there are a lot of lazy people out there that don't want to get off their rear end and work. There just are a lot of people that want that 12K so they can keep sitting in their mom's basement playing PlayStation 4, okay? There's a lot of those people that feel like the world isn't fair and they should make so much more money, and yet they barely put in 40 hours, and when they put in the 40 hours, they don't really do anything of value. They've got a bad attitude. There are people doing the minimum and then angry that the world isn't treating them differently, that they should be wealthy somehow. Forget those people. I'm talking about really impoverished people that are stuck in generational poverty, generational problems, and they need help breaking out. And it's no fault of their own. Or people that fall in hardship, it's no fault of their own. There should be ways that we help. UBI, this universal basic income, is not the way to go, in my opinion. And once you let that horse out of the barn, you will never get it back in, never. And I think that thing's going to be more destructive. It's one thing if the horse runs out of the barn and doesn't come back. This horse is going to trample your crops. It's going to break your fences. You're going to be sorry that thing got out, and it's going to end up costing you way more than it would of just keeping it in. All right. Whew. Mike, tell us what you really think. George, Dylan Radigan is a very interesting opinion source on the economy. His points make you think a lot. Well, I have to look up Dylan. Janice, I think it would be fascinating conversation. I'm not smart enough to know who's right and who's wrong. Yeah, and I'm going to go on record here. Andrew Yang is smarter than me. I don't know. I don't know his IQ, and I don't know mine. But Andrew Yang is clearly more accomplished, is more intelligent than me. But that doesn't mean he can't be. Intelligence doesn't always equal right. Sometimes it's the way that you use your intelligence. It's not what you have, but how you use it. Oh my gosh, where are we going? I'm going to have to mark this mature. But and sometimes it's your basic assumptions, it's your first principles, it's your ideologies, it's your lens. All these stuff come together. Someone can have an amazing intelligence and be so wrong on so many things. You can have another person who's kind of simple-minded, but they've got good sense. They're just like common sense. They go, yeah, that doesn't seem right to me. Yep, that seems right to me. I'm just a simple person, but I know right from wrong. And it's amazing, how many people with PhDs can be so wrong about things that the majority of us understand to be very clear. Sometimes it takes a lot of intelligence to be able to convince yourself that something completely wrong is right. And I'm not accusing Andrew Yang of that, but I'm just saying the guy's smarter than me, but that doesn't mean that everything he thinks is necessarily right. That's all. And I bet he can make a great argument for UBI. I'm sure he's much more studied on it than I am, for certain. Maybe this is something it keeps coming up. Maybe I need to spend a little time with it and maybe put together some content, maybe write an article on it or something. Danny, he remembers how much I liked Ross Perot. Yeah, that was back in the day, wasn't it? Daniel, all right, Mike, understood. Sorry for the push. Oh, dude, you're not pushing at all. It doesn't bother me. I'm just laughing because it's like, it's just not me. I just never did those kinds of drugs. They never interested me, and nor shall they. And I got to tell you, like, I'm riding my motorcycle around. Everybody's smoking pot. Like, I love riding through the city. You smell pot. When I was in Barcelona, you smell pot, all throughout Europe. I don't like this. The smell's not that great to me. It's kind of skunky. Big surprise, right? But people aren't smoking it for the smell, I guess. Just like you don't start drinking coffee for the taste initially. All right. Let's see. We got a little conversation between George and Proed. I'll let those guys do their thing. Kushdeep, welcome to the live stream, my friend. Hey, Mike. I love the video on new business opportunity nobody is talking about. I started some research on various businesses. Wanted to know how to judge the complexity of a business as an outsider. So, Kushdeep, good question. I don't know what you're talking about when you say complexity, but typically, you want to have some understanding of the industry the business is in. You want to know the main dynamics in that industry. If you come in, let's say you don't know anything about woodworking, maybe all your experiences in programming, data. You want to buy a woodworking business, you're taking a bit of a risk because you don't know anything about that industry. You don't know the players in the industry. You don't know the dynamics of the industry. You don't know the margins, how money is made, et cetera. So first of all, I think you want to have a general working knowledge of whatever industry you're looking at acquiring a business in. Secondly, you're going to ask for certain documentation. When you do get in touch with someone and there's a discussion happening, typically they're going to give you like 3 years of financials. You're going to see profit and loss statements. You're going to see a customer list. You're going to see profit margins. You're going to see balance sheet, et cetera. You're going to get financials that you can dig through. Typically, the seller is going to ask you to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and there's going to be some simple letter of intent between you. So you're going to agree that you're going to go through a process, that you're going to keep their information private, confidential, and that if things move in a certain way, you're going to make an offer, and if you don't, you're going to close the deal and move on. You're not going to, I don't mean close, you're going to close the negotiations, the exploration. Often you're going to have some advisors on your side, accountants, attorneys. That can get expensive to the degree that you need to pull them in. You definitely want them there, but you should be able to get financial data, customer lists. You should be able to have conversations with the seller to be able to get your arms around it. But really, don't get involved in a business that you are a novice in the industry. Try to find something that's in your space or adjacent. Doesn't have to be exactly what you do, but it should be something that you know enough about. You're like, look, I get how this works. I know how this industry works. I've worked in it one way or the other. I had an uncle in it, et cetera. And because you don't want to come in so much an amateur that you're just, you'll be taken advantage of. And then you're going to pay for something that you're not necessarily ready to own and help thrive. So that's just a quick kind of answer there. Janice, I don't know if it's Giannis, by the way, or Janice. So forgive me, Giannis, if I'm not saying your name correctly. I would recommend watching Andrew Yang on Joe Rogan. Yeah, you're the second person that's mentioned that. They cover a lot of points against UBI. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I'm going to make a note here. Joe Rogan, Andrew Yang. I got to tell you, I love Yang's branding. The whole Yang Gang, kind of subversive underground, electronic kind of almost like cyber wave, neon wave. There's just this really crazy, grassroots branding that happened around Yang and the Yang Gang that I find fascinating. And that would be an interesting video. I should do something on that. If only I had like 3 versions of myself. Honestly, if I could make videos full time, I would sit and spend a week researching Yang Gang branding and doing a video on that. Now I'm going to have to open up a Patreon and start begging everybody, please support me so I can pursue my artistic endeavors. I'm just making a note because I think it's a great idea. Okay. Let's see here. We're slowing down a little bit. I think we're all getting, I'm almost at an hour and a half. Digimax Photo. Welcome, Digimax Photo. Glad to see you. Prefer smell of pot to that of tobacco. Fair enough. I like the smell of a cigar or a pipe. I don't like cigarette smoke. Although my father, growing up as a kid, as I did in the 70s, my dad was a heavy smoker. He probably started smoking as an adolescent boy. He kind of grew up on the streets, the tough streets, as it were. And he was an immigrant kid. So he was smoking. I grew up with smoke. So I like cigarette smoke because it's nostalgic, but I don't love the smell. But when I smell cigarette smoke, not stale smoke, like if somebody is a heavy smoker and it's just stale on them, not so nice. But if someone's smoking a cigarette, it just is nostalgic for me. But I like cigar smoke and pipe smoke. I mean, those the aroma from those I think they're fantastic, if you're asking. All right, George, it's Joe Rogan number 1245. Jeepers, you guys are the bomb here. Well, I need you guys in my back pocket during client meetings. I can just get these facts out there, like Elon Musk, $48 billion. I forget what the number was. We got Joe Rogan number 1245. Thank you. Daniel, I'd like to see some content on Andrew Yang branding, but I understand that you are a busy man. Well, hey, I'm busy, but if I want to make this thing work, I gotta deliver. And I can sit and cry and go, oh, there's not enough time, but there's so much great stuff to do out there, and it's frustrating to me. I'm not complaining that you're demanding it. I'm complaining that I wish I had more time to get to this stuff. So, guys, it's been a great discussion. I think we'll wrap up in a couple minutes here. I've been really jabbering, but this has been great. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you hope to? I mean, I talked a little bit about my motorcycle riding in Greece, or what my scooter riding in Greece, which led to motorcycles. We talked about UBI. We talked about Elon Musk and his response. One of the things, I'm posting a video tomorrow, most likely, about Mark Andreessen in his article, It's Time to Build. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mark Andreessen. He's the founder of Mosaic, which became Netscape. and then he sold that for like 4 point something billion to AOL. He's an investor, Andreessen Horowitz. He wrote "Software is Eating the World," this essay that really lit the fire on that whole software as a service concept. But I've got a video that responds to Mark Andreessen's recent essay that it's time to start building. I'll be publishing that tomorrow. Would love for you guys to check that out. Let me know what you think. But I'm grateful that you guys are here. Love you guys. It really, you mean so much to me. It would be so cool to sit in a room together, wouldn't it? Just a bunch of us together, have a beer, have a raucous, loud conversation for a couple hours. That would be the bomb. But thank you for all your time. I'm just going to look at a couple more. George, truly love this live stream of you, Mike. Thank you, George. I love doing it, and I'm glad you're here. Ara says, thank you, even as a retired person. Have a great day, buddy. Even as you've paid your dues, you're special. You made it, and you lived a full life in the process. So thanks for joining us. Daniel, appreciate your time and insight, Mike. My pleasure, Daniel. Proed Jansen, to all, enjoyed your positive vibes. Yeah, great crowd. You guys are the best. Danny Vega, I'm off. All right, volleyball time for Danny. See ya. Akbar, maybe talk about your thinking about business environment after the pandemic. Could do that soon. In fact, I'll do that in real quick. And then Kushdeep, thanks for the live stream. These sessions and videos are great. Thank you, Kushdeep. Thank you for being part of the audience. And then Giannis, I think there is a business opportunity for people that can digitize the incoming influx of small businesses. How would you recommend putting your name out there for smaller businesses? That's a great, when you say digitize, I think you mean like digital marketing, like help them take their business online. And if you're talking about a local market, I'd start hitting all the local clubs and groups that are looking for speakers. Obviously, no one's doing these things right now. I'd be doing webinars. I'd be talking to these groups saying, hey, maybe you can't have live events, but there are all these groups that have speakers come in and share their expertise on a topic, whether they're local clubs and or chapters of national or international, like the association, American Association of Marketers, AMA kind of thing, get into a local chapter. I'd start sharing on that, publishing on that. I do some webinars on that, and I'd be hitting LinkedIn pretty hard. I would think that you could be putting up videos and articles on LinkedIn that would get at that would help you. Akbar talks about a business environment after the pandemic. I think it's going to be a mixed bag, Akbar. I think there's going to be a big pop. There's going to be a lot of economic pent-up desire. So you're going to see it's going to be like this strange thing where part of the plant is really healthy and just thriving and throwing off fruit, and the other part of the plant's going to be sickly and withering. It's not going to be fully healthy, and it's not going to be fully dead. It's going to be this kind of mix. And I think to be savvy, even to Giannis's comment, there'd be these businesses that are thinking, how do we protect against this? How do we digitize so we can transact online more? How do we shift our business quicker than we used to? And so I think it's going to be a mixed bag. And I think it's going to be an environment that provides lots of opportunity for folks that want to get in. I think there's going to be lots of opportunity to start businesses, to acquire businesses, as I was talking about, guys. So that's it. I think I've got to take a big glass of water, throw on my helmet, and go for a little bit of ride on the motorcycle. But guys, thanks again. Loved my time with you. I wish the best for all of you. God bless you guys. I love you. And I'll catch you in the next stream or in the next video. Peace.